I've always been a writer, and as such, I have occasionally made life decisions based on what kind of story it would make. So, for example, in college, I went on a film shoot, and there was this really cute guy there, and even though it was the middle of winter, and it was a night shoot, and we were in New York, he didn't bring any gloves. So I had a spare pair, which I lent to him, and then of course he forgot to give them back, and he had to call the director to get my phone number to ask me out. And we started dating, and he was an asshole. But I continued to date him for longer than I would have because I kept thinking that the way we met would make such a great story to tell the grandkids. Moving on a few years, I met my next boyfriend, Jason, at film school as well. And we dated for a while, and we fell in love, and he was from Northern Virginia, so we moved down here, and we bought a house together in Reston. And after about a year and a half, I started getting the sense that we were living a different romantic movie together. I was living the romantic movie where we're a happy couple, and he was living the romantic movie where he does his own thing and I do my own thing, and never the twain shall meet. So I was starting to think that I should probably try to get out of this relationship. I should probably break up with him. And it was in that mindset that we went to my friend's party at Great Falls. She was having a barbecue, and after the barbecue, Jason did not turn off on Glade Drive to come back to our house. He kept going. He kept heading west. And I said, "Where are you going? You missed the turnoff." And he said, "Oh, I got a gift certificate for a restaurant out in Middleburg called the Red Fox Inn, and we're gonna go there for dinner." And I thought, "Oh, well, that's pretty cool." And then when we got to the Red Fox Inn, it turned out he didn't have a gift certificate after all. He just made that up. And he had booked us in at a bed and breakfast for the weekend, and he'd bought champagne, and he'd bought a whole bunch of romantic movies, and he bought a big diamond ring. And it was so romantic and perfect that I had to say yes. So we planned our wedding, and even though Jason and I didn't agree on everything, one thing we did agree on was our love of the Grand Canyon. And so for our honeymoon, we were gonna hike the Grand Canyon rim to rim. Now, we got married, and the next day we flew out to Phoenix together, and then we drove up to the Grand Canyon. Now, I had gotten the permits. If you don't know this, you need permits to sleep in the Grand Canyon, partly because it's a national park and there are fees to collect, and partly so that the rangers know where you're going to be at every step of the way, because lots of people die in the Grand Canyon every year. I had gotten the permits for 6 nights in the canyon. I had not gotten a permit for our first night there. So there were a couple choices we could make. We could stay in a hotel, we could sleep in the car, or behind door number 3, we could hide from the rangers. We decided that since our entire honeymoon was based on camping in the Grand Canyon and we didn't want to get thrown out, and yet we didn't want to waste our first night there, that what we would do is go to no man's land. We were going to go hike an old abandoned mining trail. Now, we had maps and they showed these old trails on there, but most people who go to the Grand Canyon, they hike the Bright Angel Trail or the South Kabob Trail. We were on the South Rim. And that's because those trails, well, one, that's where you just naturally gravitate to, but 2, the trail is really well maintained, right? It's like 4 or 5 feet wide. You can fit a person and a mule at the same time. There's a water pipe that runs from the top all the way down to the bottom, so every mile or so you can stop and fill up your canteen. There's porta potties along the way and campsites. It's pretty cushy. I don't know why all these people are always dying there, right? So we figured, well, that's where the rangers are going to be, because that's where the tourists are, so we're going to go out to this old abandoned mining trail. Now, the miners did not have tourism in mind when they made these trails, right? They had efficiency in mind. So not quite 4.5 feet wide, really. The trail was more like 2 feet wide. So we're walking, trying to keep our feet as close together as possible, because taking a little step to the left meant falling off into the canyon, right? There are parts of this trail where I literally, and Jason too, I have big hips, he did not, we had to face the rock wall and shimmy, kind of bouldering along so that we could fit down this trail, right? Not as well maintained the other one. And of course, there's no water, there's no porta potty, there's no campsite, but there is a plateau. So after we hike for about 4 hours, we get to this plateau and we set up our camp when we have our delicious MRE meals, right? You know? and we go to sleep and we wake up in the morning. And this is early July, and we learn a few things in the morning. One, the sun rises at 4:30 a.m. in the canyon, so we are up with the sun. Two, it's 4:30 in the morning and 85 degrees. Today is gonna be a scorcher. And lastly, we pretty much used up all of our water hiking in. Now, I don't think this is too much of a problem. We have a little bit of water. It's about a 4-hour hike out. We're not gonna die of dehydration in 4 hours, even if it's a hot day, right? So I say we should pack up and go right now. Jason, who did this frequently, disagreed. He had this map on him that showed a mile further down the trail, there was water to be found. Now, from our hike in, I was pretty sure no one had used this trail for about 100 years. So I didn't think we should trust that the water would still be functioning, right? But Jason insisted, and we went to the edge of the plateau and we looked down and you could see this trail sort of switchbacking for the next half a mile or so. And it did not look like it was in as good a condition as the one we had come in on. So I said, no, I'm not going down that trail. Now, keep in mind, this is the first day of our honeymoon. It's the first day of our life as a married couple, and my new husband said, okay, fine, you stay here with the bags. And he took our water, and he went off in search of a new water supply. Now, I'm a newlywed. I figure compromise comes par with the course, right? So I just sit down against a wall, find some shade. There's this old broken down stone wall there. And I start thinking happy thoughts. I'm in my happy place. I'm thinking about the wedding, and I'm thinking about the horse-drawn carriage we had, and I'm thinking about all the guests and my doggies that are home that I miss, and I'm looking at the view, and it's gorgeous, and we're gonna spend the next 6 nights here, right? And that keeps me occupied for a good 45 minutes before I start thinking other thoughts. Like maybe we're not in that story of the happy newlywed couple who goes on an adventure in the Grand Canyon, right? Maybe we're in that story of the newlywed couple who does something stupid, like, I don't know, goes on a hike and makes it hard for the rangers to find them or for anyone to know where they are, right? And then they end up dead or having to saw their arms off, right? So I start thinking that thought, and as soon as I start thinking that way, I can't take it back. It's there now. We've gone there. So I walk over to the edge of the plateau and I look at this switchback that Jason has walked down, and I don't see him coming back. So I figure, well, it's a canyon, right? He's bound to hear me, so I yell, Jason! And I hear, Jason, 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 Jason. Jason! Jason, 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 Jason. He does not answer me. And I think that's kind of weird, because he should be able to hear me, right? And then I start getting convinced, because it would be so perfect, right? It would be such a perfect, ironic story if we should die there. And I'm convinced that he is dead, or that he's fallen through a hole in the ground and he's stuck in a cave, and the only way he's gonna get out is if I go and rescue him. But I know if I go to rescue him that I am going to fall to my death trying to save him. So I don't want to go try and rescue him. And then I think, well, I have no water, right? He's taken our water bags, and every hour that goes by, I am getting closer and closer to dying of dehydration, so maybe I should leave now. And I don't want to leave because I'm pretty sure he's broken a leg and he's crawling back to me, crying because he's gonna die without me, right? So I do the only logical thing when you're running out of water and you're scared. I started bawling my eyes out, right? And it is in that state that Jason finds me. He comes back and he's succeeded. He's got his 2 big bags of water and he says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh my God, thank God." And I jumped up and I hugged him and I was like, "I was afraid you had died." And he just kind of of rolls his eyes at me and says, "Yeah, okay, I just went to get water." And, it's the first day of our honeymoon. We're newlyweds, so I kind of let the tone drop. And I take our water, and he takes his water, and we hike out. And we survive the hike out. And we survive the next 6 nights in the Grand Canyon. And our marriage survives for a year and a half. Now, the story of our separation and divorce is a long and boring story. So I like to occasionally imagine a better story where Jason had just died.